Hey everyone, welcome to the third part of the Cyberpunk illustration series. This time we are going to put all of it together, create some surrounding buildings, and basically prepare the whole composition for the materials and the lightings next time. And if you're new to the channel and you'd like to see tutorials like this in the future, please hit that subscribe button and the bell button to get notified when I release something new. And now, before we jump right into our scene, few words about our sponsors. This tutorial series is sponsored by NVIDIA and Scan Computers. NVIDIA Studio is an initiative by NVIDIA to help content creators like me and you to create with best possible tools by accelerating applications with their GPUs and certifying computer systems and laptops to make it easier as a creator to find a system that meets your needs. In case of Blender, this is mostly viewport and final frame rendering using RTX ray tracing acceleration with RT cores and AI powered by Tensor cores, so you can quickly and easily visualize your designs real-time in a viewport. This product is then tested, and if it passes NVIDIA's test, then it's certified NVIDIA Studio product and gets a Studio badge. You can find a range of NVIDIA RTX Studio laptops and systems on Scan Computers' website, like the one they sent me to use for the production of this series. It's a professional laptop with i9 CPU, 32 gigs of memory, 2 terabytes of NVMe storage, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 Super, an amazing 4K OLED display, designed and tested to take care of all your content creation needs. If you want to see it in detail, be sure to visit link in description or check out the first part of this series. And as I said before, this will be an intermediate tutorial, so if you need to get up to speed a little bit, you can watch some of my other commentary tutorials and you can find the link to the playlist in the description. Or if you want to get most out of your time, you can check out my courses on polygonrunway.com, and there you can really learn the basics of Blender. You can go from zero to hero in the shortest amount of time possible. It's guaranteed, so if you're interested, please go check it out. So here we are with our bus from the last session, and right now we are going to make it part of the layout. So first of all, I will unhide the original collection with the big Ben, and we have the bus here, and let's select the bus and move it to the side a little bit. And I want to create the frame for this diorama, and as you maybe know, I always do my dioramas 8x8 to have like a standard sizes between those, so I can easily interchange objects between them. But this time I'm not going to create like a square for the diorama. Instead, there will be background and the diorama will be cut into it, so it goes in depth. And the easiest way to do that will probably be using Bool tool. So first of all, let's add a plane. I will press Shift A, add a plane, and now let's go into the edit mode and scale it up quite a lot, like this. Doesn't really matter right now, we can change that whenever we want. And now let's create a cube, so Shift A, add a cube, and now I will go into the edit mode and press S and 4 to scale this 4 times. And now shift click the plane and Control minus. This won't work right away, but here in the modifiers tab where we have the Boolean modifier, and remember we have the new option for solvers that's since Blender 2.91, and the exact solver doesn't work with the plane, so we'll need to switch this to fast, and it works. And remember to use this quick shortcut, Control and minus on a numpad. For the Bool tool, you need to go to the preferences, add-ons, and enable Bool tool add-on. If you don't have the numerical keyboard, you can change your shortcuts in those add-on preferences under the Bool tool add-on. So this will be a space for a diorama. So right now we can take our 2 objects that we have ready and find them a new place, and then build our scene and composition around that. So let's select the big Ben now, and remember we parented everything here so we can easily manipulate it. And now press 7 on a numpad for top view, and we can move it in place. And I want to move it somewhere here and make it larger, so press S and scale it up to something like this. And to match this, you can see I'm using 4 squares right here for the big Ben to fill it up, and I'm leaving some space for it. And now I can select the bus and press S and scale it up tiny bit and move it somewhere here. And again, you can help yourself using grid, so you can see how many spaces the bus occupies. So right now, if I look from the side, this is something we had in the original diorama, and we can build around that. So I will press Shift A now and add a plane. Let's look from the top and let's tab into the edit mode and press G, and by holding Control we can snap it to the grid. And now let's go to the vertex select by pressing 1, and now we can select these two vertices, press G then X, and by holding Control snap them towards here, maybe a little bit less, so move it somewhere here. And now select these two, press G then Y, and snap them towards the middle here. And maybe I've made this big band too large, so let's select it, make it a little bit smaller and move it to the side here, so we have some more space for the platform. Now go back to the plane here, press Ctrl R, create a new cut and move it up until here, maybe press E then Y and snap it right there. So we'll create this kind of platform that goes around our big band. And now we can make it a little bit more interesting by beveling some corners. So let's go to the vertex select and press Ctrl B then V or Ctrl Shift B and create a slope like this, and here as well, but maybe a smaller one. Okay, and now I will create a new cut here, so press K for a knife tool and let's create a cut that goes through here. Press C for angle snap, confirm and enter. And I want to extrude a tiny bit here that will serve as a platform for our stairs, and maybe we can press G twice and move it towards the bottom a little bit like this. And now select this edge right here, press E then X and extrude this, so it kind of goes up until the big band ends. And we can additionally select this corner and make a small bevel here as well, so we have some visual interest there. Okay, and now we can extrude the platform, so select all and I will go back to the solid view. And before we extrude this, you might want to get rid of these edges inside. We don't really need them, so let's select these edges and press Ctrl X to dissolve them, and I will leave that one there. Okay, this is a little bit more cleaner. And now press A and press E and extrude this down, and we can press A to select all and Shift N to recalculate normals. So this will serve as a base for our platform. And now I want to create stairs here, so I will reuse some of the geometry. So let's select this edge right here, and don't forget to disable the auto merge and press Shift D, enter and P enter to separate. Now tab out, tab into the new object, and we have this single edge right here. If we tab in, and we can now press E then Y and extrude our first stair. And now we can add an array modifier, and we don't want to offset this relatively, so let's switch this off, and I want to enable constant offset, and let's set distance X to 0 and Z to something like -0.3 or something like that. Okay, and Y -0.2 or something. We'll maybe modify this later. And only thing left to do right now is to increase the number of stairs by increasing the count here. Let's see, something like this. We'll see. And the reason why I choose constant offset is now we can extrude these stairs and give them whatever depth we want and modify them later. The offset won't change based on the height of the object, so that's really useful thing here to do. So let's extrude them like this and recalculate normals. So we have some base for our stairs, and now we can move them a bit down. So I'll switch this to vertex snapping, press G then Z and snap it right here. Okay, and now select the platform object, go into the edit mode, and we'll select these two edges. So by holding Shift, I will select those edges, press Shift D again and P again to separate. So the same old thing. And now select all. Let's look from the side and let's press E and extrude it like this. And we can match the angle in which the stairs are descending like this. And additionally, we can press A and Alt E and extrude along normals and extrude them inside like this. So I think this will serve well as a base for our stairs. And now to finish our platform, I want to create some rim around that. So let's select the platform and alt click the ring, the loop around, but we don't want to select these faces on the outside. So if you press slash on a numpad, you can isolate this. So let's just hold shift and deselect these. And now we'll press shift D and P to separate. And now we can exit the local view by pressing slash again, tab into the new object, and let's select this loop on the top. So alt click the edge loop right here, and we'll move it up a little bit. So press G then Z and move it tiny bit up like this. Now press A, alt E, extrude along normals, and we'll extrude this inside, but don't forget to press S for even thickness, and we can additionally hold shift for some small increments and create a rim. We can now tab out, and before we move on with the next building, I want to create the 2 more platforms here that will be situated down here and will be part of that deeper background, and this will be very easy to create. So let's press shift A and add a new plane. Let's look from the top, and I want this a little bit larger, so let's switch this back to the increment snap, tab in and press S and scale it up by holding Control, and I want this to scale it to something like this, so it's like 5 meters on the side. And now we can enable wireframe view, and let's select this vertex, and I will press Ctrl B then V and bevel this side here. So again, there is some visual interest there. Now I will tab out and move it to the side here. Okay, and move it down. So let's look from the front by pressing 1, press G and Z and move it down to somewhere here, maybe like this. I think we can move the Big Ben a little bit up, so let's select that one and let's move it so the bottom of the clock is at the level with this platform. Okay, I like the position of the bus, and here we can move somewhere here to this next part of the Big Ben. So now if we look from the side, we'll be able to see it down below, no problem. So now let's finish this up very quickly, and we can tab in, press E, extrude this, and additionally press I to inset and extrude a tiny bit down so we have some rim there as well. And we can have it around the whole platform, doesn't really matter, we won't be able to see this side. And let's switch back to the solid view. We have our platform and we are cutting a little bit into the Big Ben, so let's press G then Y and move it to the side like this. Okay, we'll have always time to modify this a little bit later, so let's get back to modeling. And now we'll create the one last building that will stand here. So let's press Shift A, create a new plane. Let's look from the top, and we can press G and by holding Control, snap it right here. Tab in, and we can select these 2 vertices, press G then Y, and by holding Control, snap it 1 meter up, and press G then X and 1 to the side, like this. Okay, and let's do some bevels. So Control B then V, and let's make a small one here and a little bit larger one right here. And now let's press 3 on a numpad to look from the side, and we'll extrude this up, maybe up until here where the roof ends. So let's press A to select all and E to extrude up until here, like that. Okay, so this will be our building, and maybe this is too tall, so press G then Z and move it down a tiny bit. And now we can create some cuts, so we can actually cut in some windows here. So press Ctrl R, create a cut in the middle, and now I will bevel this cut with 1 segment, so we have 2 edges there. So press Ctrl B and bevel it like this. Let's look from the front, and we'll create additional cuts like this and up here, so we have similar size faces right there, and they will serve as a base for our windows. And now we'll need to create some additional cuts. We cannot use the loop cuts because the building shape is an N-gon, so I will use knife. Let's press 3 on the numpad to look from the side, press K and just do 2 cuts by enabling C here like this, and the second one here. Okay, and I want to do one from this side as well. So press K and do a cut here. So as you can see, we have two cuts here and one here, and now we are able to select some window object that we want to extrude. So first of all, let's go to the face select and let's select faces like this. Not this one here, and something like this, so it's a little bit interesting. And now press Alt E, extrude faces along normals. Let's press S for even scaling and extrude it inside like that. Okay, and we can additionally delete this face that we created down here, and we can delete the floor as well, we don't need that. So let's go to the local view by pressing slash, and we can delete the rest of these faces. Okay, press slash once again. So this will serve as a base for our building, and now we can check this composition from the isometric view, because that's what we are aiming for, that's what we want. I will now press N to expand the side panel and locate my Isocam add-on. If you don't have this installed, just download it in the description. There's a little guide how you can activate it. Just go into the preferences, add-ons, click install, load up the zip file with the add-on, and you should be able to see it here if you press N and expand the side panel. And you will have a set of buttons here that will create different aspect ratio of isometric cameras. Most of the time I use True Isocam, which gives you 4:3 ratio of this isometric tile. So let's click the True Isocam, and this is the composition we are aiming for. And now I will disable the reference so it doesn't get in the way. Now let's go to the output settings, and I will set this to 4:3 as well, so it's 1600 to 1200, and move this up tiny bit. And additionally go to the camera settings and change this to 16 orthographic scale, so we are a little bit zoomed out. And now you can see how the platform is visible right here and how this all looks in the final composition. I really like this so far. Basically, we have that large landmark coming from beyond. There will be some fog included, so we'll be really able to perceive the depth. Maybe we'll need to create something here on the other side as well, because there's a little bit of an empty space behind that big bend. But right now we can focus on finishing the building here and the platforms. So let's continue by creating a railing around these platforms. And there's a really easy method I use all the time, and that's either you can use the skin modifier or you can use the curves. I really like the curves lately. So let's select the platform object, and additionally this stair object, the railing of the stair, and we can tab in. Let's enable wireframe view, and we can select the top loop of the platform by holding Alt and Shift, but I want to deselect this one and this one. So this is our selection, and additionally I want to select this one here on the stairs and deselect this. So this will be the edges we'll need to create our railing. So let's press Shift D, Enter, and P, Enter to separate. And now if we tab out, if you look in the outliner, we have these two objects. So I will just select both of those and press Ctrl J to join them. And now we have them in one object. And let's select this edge right here, and we'll move it to the side a tiny bit and enable auto merge. So press G, then X. So let's enable vertex snapping, press G, then X, and move it here so it snaps, and now we have it connected. Now let's select all, press E, then Z, and extrude it up like this. So that's really easy railing you can create like this. And now to add some more loops, we'll press Ctrl R, create the 2 new loops here, few more here. So something like 4. One here. So I'm not trying to do these parts exactly the same to speed this up a little bit, but I think this will be enough. So this is the base mesh for our railing. Before we convert this to curves, let's move it a tiny bit inside. So I will press A to select all and Alt S to scale along normals, but I will recalculate them first. So press Shift N, and now Alt S, and let's press S for even thickness. And you can see how we are able to move them along normals right in the middle of that rim we have along. And now let's go to the edge select, alt click here to select the top loop, and here as well, press Shift D, enter P to separate. Now select this new object, object convert to, and let's select curve, go to the geometry tab on the object data properties, and right here in the round bevel section we will increase the bevel. Let's switch to the solid view so we better see what we are doing, and to something like 0.35 or something like that. And don't forget to fill caps, right click and shade smooth. So this will be our railing. We can select this mesh loop once again, going to the edit mode, and alt control click the loop like this, so we can select these perpendicular edges. And now alt control shift click here to select these as well, and again we can press Shift D and P to separate, so we have them separated. And again, object convert to curve, and if you go into the edit mode, you can see we created this set of curves that are separated, so we won't have any weird joints or anything. They will just cut into each other, and that's what we want here basically. So let's now just increase the bevel. We can make them a little bit more thinner like this, and don't forget to shade smooth. And now we can delete this original object, and we have some railings here. So that's a very easy method how to do this, and there's some additional cleanup you might need to do, and either you will move these or move the railings themselves. So I will choose to move railings right here, tiny bit outside. Okay, so that's for the railings, and I will do the same thing for this platform right here. So let's isolate this with slash on a numpad, and now we can just select this outer loop and deselect these two edges on the side, press Shift D and P to separate, and let's extrude the railing like before. Press Alt S to scale along normals, and S for even thickness, and we'll select the top loop, separate this, and of course convert to curve and give it some volume. Fill caps, shade smooth, and now let's create some more cuts right here like this. Alt control click here, separate it, and again we'll convert this to curve. And I have this in my quick menu, so I'll press Q and curve from mesh and increase the radius, shade smooth, and additionally fix this. Okay, so that's our platform number 2. Maybe the railing is a little bit too large compared to this one, so of course we can select both of those, go into the edit mode, look from the side, enable X-ray, and create selection like this and move it all down, and additionally scale this down to those 0.35. Okay, and that's better. And we can now finish up with some additional details. So I want to create some kind of like a metal cover on the side here, and there will be some pipes going around it, and we'll create some air conditioning unit there, or things like that, some electrical boxes, cables. So we have that sci-fi cyberpunk setting present there. So first of all, let's make things easy by selecting a face like this on the side, disable the auto merge and press Shift D, enter to duplicate and P to separate, and now select this and move it to the side a tiny bit like this. Okay, and now I will make this a little bit larger, so press G then X to move it to the side and towards the bottom as well, like that. And I want to create one bevel here, and additionally make it a little bit more smooth, so select these two vertices, press Ctrl B V, and we'll increase the number of cuts with the mouse wheel like that. So this will be kind of like a metal cover there. We can additionally extrude this, and now let's select this edge on the side and control click here to select it all the way there. Press Shift D and P to separate, and we'll convert this to curve again. Let me select it, and we'll convert this to curve in a second. I just want to create some more geometry there, so let's go into the edit mode. And now we can go to the vertex select this top vertex. Let's look from the front and press Shift D and X to move this to the side a tiny bit. We can extrude this all the way down, so press E, then Z and move it down, and E, then X. And we'll use that vertex snapping, so hold Control and snap it right there. And we can bevel this as well, so Control B, V, and create a bevel like that here. Right now we can select this vertex again, press Shift D, then Z to move it down. We can extrude it along this angle here and on X as well. And again, hold Control to snap. And now let's bevel this corner. Okay, something like this. And I will create one more, so press Shift D again on this vertex and X to snap it. And just extrude it down. So E, Z, and extrude it down like this. And one more. So we have really some visual interest there, some structure. And we can press E, Z, extrude it down up until here where the window goes. And now we can look from the front. And first of all, I want to move this more towards the building. So let's toggle the X-ray, select all of these vertices, press G, then Y, and move it somewhere here like this, so we don't have to do that later. And now if we select this vertex down here, we can extrude it along the wall there like that, here as well on the Y-axis, and turn it inside the building and create additional bevel here. So we have something like this. If it's too low, we can maybe move this a little bit higher. And let's create some more bends here as well. So select these two vertices, press Ctrl B, then V, and bevel them as well. And now we can tab out and convert all of this to curve and add some bevel there. So let's toggle the X-ray, and easily like that we were able to create a lot of pipes, and this really gives some visual interest to our scene, and it's really easy to do like this. And now just right click and shade this smooth, and I think this looks great. So right down here, first of all, I want to move these points a little bit. I don't like the location on that. Okay, and now let's right click here. I will create an air conditioning unit there. So add a plane. Let's tab in, press R, X 90 to rotate 90 degrees. Let's make this smaller so it fits between our pipes like that. And now press S, then X, and extrude it up. And right now extrude the box. And we can now press Ctrl R and create a loop cut in the middle. First of all, let's move the cursor in the center of this face, so Shift S and cursor selected. And now we can tab out and create a new cylinder there. And let's modify this to 12 sides and make it smaller. So tab in, make it smaller like this. And now I will press R, X, and rotate. And before we cut a hole there with the bool tool, first of all, let me make this smaller on the Y-axis. I want to separate this face. I want to reuse that later. So let's press Shift D and P to separate. We can tab out, select the original cylinder again, shift click the air conditioning unit and Ctrl minus to create a cut there. And right now we are able to move this thing inside, make it a little bit smaller and create a propeller. So let's look from the front by one. And let's press I for inset. Let's go all the way here, and now we will select every other face here and delete. Select all. Let's press period on a numpad to focus on our object here and extrude this. And you can additionally extrude this as well and create some additional interest, whatever you want, whatever works for you. But this will work so far. And here we want to create some more geometry. Let's slice this up a tiny bit like this. And now select these faces press I for inset, but we can press I twice for individual inset and extrude this inside. So we have some visual interest there as well. And I think some electric boxes or something like that would look cool here. So let's move the cursor right here, shift right click, and we'll create some kind of box. So R, X, 90 degrees. Let's make this smaller. And we can move this to the side like this. And move this edge up. Okay, and let's extrude this. Maybe we can bevel this top face, reduce the number of segments, create some inset, move this up, extrude inside. You know, basic modeling, basic box modeling things, just to give it some visual interest. If you look from afar, that there is something going on, some additional geometry, some insets, some bevels, that the light can bounce off. And we can create something additional here as well. So let's add a circle. Let's modify it to 12, tab in, RX 90 degrees. Let's scale this down tiny bit, fill it up, and create something like this. And right now I'm going a little bit random here. So whatever I feel would look great, I will create here or duplicate or something. So whatever best feels for you, just fill it up with some technical details. And I feel like some box would look great here as well. So I'll just select this building, select this face, press Shift D, enter, and P enter to separate. Select this new face and let's make it smaller. Move it up a tiny bit and create another type of box here. And maybe we can inset and extrude this as well. And on the original diorama, I've created like this iconic London Underground sign here. So we can do that here as well. So shift right click and create a circle. And I will give this 24 sides so it has a little bit more geometry. Let's tab in, RX 90 degrees, and let's make this smaller. Let's look from the front. And we can press F to fill this and inset to create a rim like this and delete the inside face. And now we can tab out, add a new mesh, plane, tab in RX 90 degrees. Let's make this smaller and I will try to match the size of that rim and additionally scale on the X. So I think it looks something like this, maybe a tiny bit larger here so we can fit in some writing in there. And now we can just join these two. We don't need to keep them separate. Tab in, select all, press E to extrude, and we can additionally press I and disable individual inset and extrude again inside. And of course we'll need to select this face here, press Ctrl plus to expand the selection and press G then Y and move it outside a tiny bit so it doesn't overlap there. And there you have it. Right here you can snap the cursor and add a text object, and let's rotate it on the x-axis as well. So RX 90 degrees, and let's go into the paragraph settings and let's switch alignment to center on both horizontal and vertical axis, and let's make this smaller. Tab in and we'll rewrite this to Westminster, for example. That's where the Big Ben is, and let's make this smaller, and we can increase the letter spacing here so the writing looks a tiny bit better. So under the spacing options we can locate the character spacing and increase that, and additionally we can extrude this in the geometry tab like that. So there's your underground sign, very easy thing. You can shade this smooth and enable auto smooth so you have that smooth sides there, and I would probably do the same thing here. And if you hold Alt you can enable auto smooth for every one of those, and if you hold Alt you can even modify this value for every one of those objects. Okay, so I guess that's it for the building. I think there are some additional details missing. Like I would need to finish this roof a tiny bit. So let's select the building object, tab in. I will select these faces on top, and we can additionally maybe dissolve this so it doesn't get in the way. Press I to inset and extrude down like this, and maybe we can create some kind of box here as well. And really I don't like think about any purpose for these details. Sometimes I just create them if I feel like it, so it looks cool and it has some like these chamfered edges and stuff like that. So just go with the flow and create something you really like. And now I will select this vertex here, press Shift D, Enter and P, Enter to separate it, and I should be able to locate it right here. Tab in, press G, then Y, move it here, and I will duplicate this. So Shift D, Y to move it to the side, and once again we'll create some kind of additional pipes here, but I want to move this a little bit to the side. And let's now look from the top, press E, then X. Now we can extrude it to the side tiny bit and maintain that angle. Let's toggle wireframe so we can see the width of our rim here, and press E, then X, and move it up until here. Now look from the front by pressing 1 and select everything, press G, go up on the Z axis like this. Now you can select these vertices on the edge there, press E, then Z, extrude them up. Now on the X axis, again a little bit down and inside the building. And additionally we can select all of these corners, you know, and bevel them. So Control B and bevel them like this, convert to curve, and add some bevel geometry like that. Okay, and let's look from the solid view. I think this looks great. We can maybe move this a little bit up. Okay, and shade smooth. So as you can see, it's easy to add some additional details that will add some additional visual interest. And now what I like to do is to add some kind of panels here and there. So Shift right click and we'll add a plane. That's a very easy thing to do. Basically I'll just create some plane, bevel the corners and extrude it tiny bit. And now I will snap the cursor to the top face, tab out and create a new circle there. And I will modify this to something like 8. We'll need this really small. Tab in and make it smaller like this, press F and extrude this down. Now look from the top by pressing 7 on the numpad, move it to the corner here and enable mirroring like this, and on the Y axis as well. So these will be like little bolts or something. Okay, and now what we can do is press Ctrl A, hovering over the mirror modifier to apply it, and then shift click the plane and Ctrl J to join it. There's no reason we need to keep this separately. And just shade it smooth, enable auto smooth, and we'll need to find the angle that will smooth these as well. So I think something like 50 will work, or 45. This will clash a tiny bit because we have these angles here, but I don't worry about that. So 45 angle will be just enough to have this kind of panel here. We can maybe make it a little bit larger and move it on the X and Y axis. And additionally, I want to move this down. So I will switch this to face snapping and projection of individual elements. Now I'll press G and hold Control to be able to snap it down. But this will start to snap to our bool object. So let's select that one and let's hide it from the view. And let's try to snap this again like this. Okay, that works now. And we can additionally press Shift D and snap some here. Let's look from the camera view. Okay, that works. And maybe some down here on this platform. So it's a little bit more interesting down there. Okay, works fine. And one last thing to do, and this is really the last thing I want to do in terms of modeling, is to create some kind of cables. We created some pipes, but I think to add some of that really cyberpunkish feeling to this, some really random cables and stuff would look nice here. So I will create just one cable here for you, and you can then go around your scene and create more of those. You can get some inspiration from the original image I did, and I tend to use the grease pencil for this. I think it's a really great tool to create some random cables here and there. And the way you do that is you basically add your origin point somewhere, your cursor, and then press Shift A, create a grease pencil object, and let's create a blank. And now we'll go into the draw mode. So click here and go to the draw mode. And first of all, we'll need to change this to surface. So anytime you draw with the grease pencil, you are snapping it to the surface. And right now, just go somewhere and try to paint some cable. Now this happens when you have the offset. So let's press Ctrl Z to go back, and we will modify this offset to 0. So again, we can try this again, and let's paint some cable here, and maybe one more. It really looks good when there are like cables cluttered together. And you can see this is now painted on the surface here. And right now let's go to the object mode. You can see we have a G pencil object right there, and it's very easy to convert. You just go to the object, convert to, and you will choose a type of curve. I always tend to use polygon curve. I don't really care for Beziers in low poly scenes like this. And now we can just delete the original G pencil object, and you have some curves here. They're quite dense, but there's a simple way how to do that. If you go to the properties add-ons, you can search for simplify curve, and now if you press F3 and search for simplify, you can see there is a curve simplify. You press enter and just increase the error, and you will see how this gets more and more simple, how you reduce the control points in the curve like this. And now if you tab in, you can see this is not that dense, but be careful because this is the original GP layer curve that was dense, and the simplified curve will create a new curve for you that has a simple prefix. So let's just go ahead and delete the one we don't need, and now select these curves, and again in the geometry you just add some bevel, and you can additionally press Ctrl 1 to add some subdivision, and there's basically your cables. And don't forget to shade it smooth. So really easy way how to create cables on the surfaces. You can go ahead and create some cables on the ground here, you know. Maybe if you disable that snapping, you can create some cables hanging from the platform or from the bus, whatever works for you. And now let's tidy up the scene a little bit because I've created everything in the bus collection. Sorry for that, that was a little bit messy. So right now I will select the bus, shift right bracket and hide it, and I will additionally hide this collection as well. So now everything here we need to put into one collection. So select all, press M, new collection, and let's call this layout. Sorry for the caps lock. So right now this is a little bit better because we have our layout collection, our bus collection. So let's press Alt H to unhide this, and this one I want to move to the layout as well. And we have our big band in separate collection. So that makes things to find a tiny bit easier. And we have everything set up in our isometric view. And one last thing, I told you that something here will be missing, that this looks a little bit empty. And I think we can solve that very easily we can just duplicate this platform right here. And for easier manipulation in the future, shift click the platform with all of this selected, press Ctrl P and parent that. So right now we can move the platform at once. Now select everything once again. Let's look from the front, and I will press Alt D and rotate this 180 degrees and create a little bit of a platform peeking out of there. So there is only a tiny bit of the visual interest there, but it will make a difference if it's not empty. And maybe we can find a better position for that when we are dealing with lighting and fog and all of those things I was mentioning before. And since we started parenting things, let's just finish up with this as well. So let's hide this plane for a second, this thing as well. And I want to parent everything to this platform here. So Ctrl P and parent it to the platform. So we are able to move this whenever we want, and we don't have the outliner so cluttered. Now let's press Alt H to unhide all, unhide our collections. Let's leave the reference hidden. Let's look from the isometric view, and there you have it. That's all for the modeling side of things. This was the third part of the tutorial series. There's only one part ahead of us, and that will be all about materials, about lighting, about adding volumetric, setting up rendering, and we will really try to get some juice out of this laptop that was provided from NVIDIA and Scan Computers. So thanks to them for that again. And yeah, so that was the part 3 for you. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned some useful tricks with those curves and reusing geometry and stuff like that. And again, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see here, please hit that subscribe button and the bell button to get notified when I release something new in the future. Thank you all for watching, and see you in the last part.